Just a couple of thoughts on Yom Kippur. The pasuk says in Yeshaya, "L'chuna v'nivachecha yomer Hashem im yu chateichem kashonim, כשלג ילבינו im yadimu katela katzemer yiyu." Clear from the lashon pasuk, it sounds like that there's a concept over here that the chatoim get changed over, get switched, and get cleansed from being red, turns into white. The chatoim themselves, they're the color of red, so to speak. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is maftiach that they're going to be turned into white, either like sheleg, which is snow, or tzemer, which is wool. It's interesting in the two lashonos over here, because in Hilchas Maris Negoim, the color of sheleg and the color of tzemer is not the same thing. Rashi and Shavuos on the Avav is masber the differences between the colors. Based on this, the Maril in Hilchas Erev Yom Kippur brings that Ma'ari Segel was noyeg to take a white chicken for kaparas because the chatorim are red, and he wanted to be mekayim the pasuk im yadimu katela katzemer yiyu, and this is brought la'alocha in the Ramah. Now, this concept of chatorim turning white and the whitening of chatorim is a very basic concept, befrat Yom Kippur, and also in the world of the kaparas havoinus of the Beis Hamikdash, because the Gemara says in Gittin, Ein Levanoin ela Beis Hamikdash. So the Beis Hamikdash was referred to as Levanoin, not in the terms of just the name of a place or a name of an idea, but the concept is the oimek of the Lavan is like the Gemara says in Yuma and the Flamet Tesam Beis Lama Nikra Shmoi Levanoin Shemal Ben Avei Neseim Shal Yisrael, that it whitens the Averis of Klal Yisrael. Now, being that the name of the Beis Hamikdash is based on this concept of Halbonas Ha'avainus, the whitening of the sins, so l'chayra, it's saying that there's a very important concept over here that about the Beis Hamikdash, about the kaparas havainus of Klal Yisrael turning them white. And befrat on Yom Kippur, we would see this bepile in the Beis Hamikdash, like the Gemara says in Yuma Daf Lametes, that for 40 years Aborim Shana Shashim Mishim and Atzadik Hayalashon Shal Zahiris Malbin, the lashon of Zahiris, which was red wool, it would turn white. And Rashi says over there, Tzemer Saruk U'Mashuch Kim in Lashon Tzavua Odoim, it was dyed red, and they would tie it to the head of the Sarah Mishtaleach for the Azazel, and it would turn white on its own when the Sarah Azazel would go down. For whose simin Shemachal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, it was a simin that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Moichel Klal Yisrael for the Averish, and Nemar Miu Chatechim Kashanim Kashel Ylbiinu. Like the pasuk says that if your sins will be red, Kashanim, like Talas Shani, they'll be white. They'll turn white like snow. It's just an interesting medrash. Not that we're not going to explain it today. Mitzvah Hashem will get to it at a different time. But the pasuk says Hayadatam es Lovon ben Nachar, and the medrash says Hayadatam es Mishu Asid LeLaben Avenesechiv Keshaleg. Do you know the one? Obviously, it's referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's going to whiten your sins like snow. And it's an interesting story. I heard from my Rebbe, Victor Kinowitz, said over B'Shem Reb Zelig Epstein, that I think he met him once in the snow, and he said, his thoughts were when he saw the snow that, Neshama Shanasata B'Tahiri, you wake up in the morning, the entire block is covered in fresh, clean, beautiful white snow. The first guy needs to get to work, or the guy needs to go to davening. So he takes his car, drives in, turns black, melts some of it, ruins it a little bit here, ruins it a little bit there. By 10, 11 o'clock, it's all black, it's all ich. Says the marshal for Neshama also. Wake up in the morning, we wanted to run to Hashem, but as the day goes on, we get caught up in all kinds of yitzaharas. Okay. Fine, that was one idea. But l'chara, there's two concepts over here. Question number one really is that l'chara, when we think about getting rid of Averis, let's talk about the way, like even the way they teach the kids about Tashlach. We throw our Averis into the sea, the fish eat the Averis, So, I don't know if they're doing, I don't know if the fish eat the Averis or not, I don't know. But the point is that, are we getting rid of the Averis, or the pshat is that we're being mahapach, im yu chata'echev kashanim kashel ylbiinu. It's going to turn white. So what's the point of this? Do we want to get rid of our Averis, or we want the Averis to turn white? Or like once the Averis turn white, are they Averis, or it becomes Tahar now? Like, if the whole Taras Hayom, so to speak, of Yom Kippur revolves around the fact we wear kittles, which represent white, and the Kohen Gadol wore Bigdei Lavan, as we're going to talk about in a minute, and we use white chickens for kaparas, so it's not just the pshat. It's not just the pshat that the white's the avera. The tara is white. So when something's white, it means that we got rid of the avera, right? But why is it that we refer to the concept of the kaparas avonis as turning it into white as opposed to getting rid of it legamri? It's interesting because the Maisa we say the lashon in Rosh Hashanah davening is kalarisha kula kashan tichla. We want to get rid of everything. We want to get rid of these bad malachim that were created from the avera. We want to get rid of the metzias of tumah that was created in the world because of the averos that we did. So what's the pshat that we're talking about? Switching it up, like painting it over a different color. Why is that saving us? And the second question is bichlal, more of a good question, more of a general question. But what's the pshat that we're dealing with that that it's going to turn white, and that white is the symbol of Tara? If the point is that, an Avera makes like a stain, so if you have a blue shirt and you got a stain on it, so you clean it, and then the stain comes out, you can get rid of a stain even on something that's not white. So why are we looking at it why is it that the whole concept is based on the concept of it being white? What's miyuchad, what's special, what's the oimek over here of white? So the Pashta says the best place to start is that the avodah of the Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippur and the Kodesh HaKadoshim was with Bigdei Lavan. Like the pasuk says, "Bezois yovei Aaron al Kodesh." Aaron will come into the Kodesh befar ben bakar lachatos va'ayil la'oila. He'll bring the karbanos of the par ben bakar on the aisle and for chatos and the aisle for the oila. But what's he wearing? Ksainis bad Kodesh yilbash. U'michtim sevad yiyu al besarai. Ba'avnet bad yachgor u'mitznefes bad yitznef Bigdei Kodesh heim. All the daled begodim that he's wearing are the daled Bigdei Lavan. Rashi says, "Magid she'einu mishamish l'fnim b'shmeina begodim shu mishamish ben b'chutz elab arba k'koyin hedyet v'kulin shalbutz." He wears only the white begodim and not any of the other colors of the begodim. Generally, a Kohen Gadol wears shmeina begodim, and they were very colorful. There was blue and there was red, the il was blue, and the ephod was a mix of different colors. Even the chayshan, all these things had a lot of different colors in them. When it came to Yom Kippur, we stopped with all the colors, meaning when he goes l'fnai v'l'fnim, he doesn't wear any of the colors. Befrat no gold, like the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, because en kateger nasis anegar, we don't want to be maskir with the egel azov. But the concept is that the Rashi says, again, I'm just going to read the Lashon Rashi again. Magid she'einu mishamish l'fnim b'shmeina begodim. He doesn't do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim l'fnai v'l'fnim with the 8 begodim shu mishamish ben b'chutz that he wears outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, meaning that the avodah outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim is taka supposed to be wearing the shmeina begodim. Elo ba'arba k'kayin hedit v'kulin shalbutz. He wears davka the four garments of a kayin hedit, and they're all of butz, which is linen. The Mishnah says in Yuma, on Daf Lamed, parsu sodom shal butz, they would spread out white curtains of butz, and the Rambam says that it was made out of pishtan, which was white, which was Bigdei Lavan, which is to remind him that he's going to put on Bigdei Lavan. And bichlal, it's interesting because you think about it. I mean, hopefully we'll get to talk about this a different time. It was Morning Gev Chanukah. We spoke once the concept that the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, the Daf test, that a min asked Rababo, I think it was, and he says, Elokechem kayin Hashem is a kayin. So the question then was, what kinds of begadim does HaKadosh Baruch Hu wear kaviyachol? Does he wear the Shemaita Bigdei kahuna of the Kohen Gadol, or he wears the Shemaita Bigdei Lavan? He wears the Arba Bigdei Lavan like Kohen Hedyet. L'maisa, it depends. That was the discussion. It ended up being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wears the. It depends in the Galus or not in the Galus, but the concept is that, on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, Hagam, he's the Kohen Gadol that's going l'fnai v'l'fnim, he wears dafka, the clothing of the Kohen Hedyet, because he wants to wear only white. The Lashon Targum Yeinson is Barm Belvushe Dahava Lo Yehi Alil Matol the Lo Yidkar Chavis Igla Dahava. The Targum Yeinson also mentions this concept that he shouldn't wear any Bigdei Zahav. He should only wear the Bigdei Lavan. So fine, we can understand why he shouldn't wear Bigdei Zahav, but why should he dafka wear Bigdei Lavan? So Emes is that Yerushalmi asked this question, Yerushalmi and Yuma, And the Gemara says like this: V'lama b'bigdei lavan. So what's pshat in bigdei lavan? Reb Chia barba, kishever shel mailon, kachshever shel matan. Just like the sherus, the avoda shel maila, so too the avoda shel mata. Mala malan v'ish echad b'seicham levush habadim. Aflamatan k'saynis bad kodesh yilbash. Pasuk says in Yecheskel that there's he saw in a nevuah a person wearing levush habadim, wearing only linen, wearing only white. So too, lamata in this world, k'saynis bad kodesh yilbash should also only wear white. Maha malachim shel l'mayla mesharsam l'mayla v'bigdei lovan kach lamata yesh l'sharas v'bigdei lovan. The same way the malachim in Shemayim, when they're mesharas in their olam, when they're mesharas l'mayla, they were bigdei lovan. So too, down in this world, the Kohen Gadol has to wear bigdei lovan. So the concept is that the Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippur, he's doing a sherus, he's being mesharas l'mayla, so to speak, and that's why he's wearing bigdei lovan. And the Sforno writes that b'kameisim yiru hamalachim al hanaviyim ki hem nirim oz b'lvushe habadim. Says and he's referring to this pasuk in Yecheskel, that the pshat is like this, that when the Nevi'im would see malachim in their nevuah, they would see them wearing, as the pasuk says in Yecheskel, they would see them wearing dafka bigdei lavan. And b'sheru shel mailo, when the malachim are doing the avodah l'mailo, they wear bigdei lavan dafka. And it's interesting because it's a Gemara. The Gemara Kedushin says, and the Ayin Beis, Talmidei Chacham shebeBavel dem lemalachei Hasharis. That Talmidei Chacham in Bavel, they're comparable to Malachei Hasharis. And Rashi explains over there that Malachei Hasharis wear white, the Talmidei Chacham in the Bavel atufim levanik Malachei Hasharis, and the Talmidei Chacham in Bavel also wear white like Malachei Hasharis. And Rashi brings a Gemara in Shabbos that says Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi, and Daf Chafem and Beis on Shabbos, it says Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi in Erev Shabbos Heirechetz Panav Yadav Raglav. He would wash himself l'kavet Shabbos, his face and his hands and his feet, and he would wear white linen clothing, and he would be daim to Malach Hashem Tzvakos. So when the Gemara says that Talmidei Chacham shebeBavel are daim lemalachei Hasharis, Rashi brings his reference to this. So the concept, so again, what's the concept of lava? So it's true that that's what a malachim wear, that's what a malachim dress, kaviyach, whatever that's supposed to mean. But what is it? What is it about white dafka? So it's brought down in all the Svarim that the concept is that lavan, the color of white, it does not have any harkava in it whatsoever. It's pure. And the concept, the types, the definition of purity means that it's 100%, that there's nothing else mixed into it at all. Any other color is a mitzias of other things mixing together. There's a lashon of the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah that he says like this: Bechinas haloiven eino kishar hagavnim. The concept of white is not like the other colors. Kihu bechinas atzmius. It's a bechina of something that's by itself. Bechinas atzmius shel hadavar. Ve'en kan davar noisef. There's nothing added over here. Rak etzam hadavar levad. It's this whole thing. It's a totally something on its own. Masha enken shar hagavnim. Masha enken the other colors shem tzeva, which are colors shetzevim by Odom Yarek, shetzeva Odom, who davar neisav al etzem hadavar shahoy lavan, va'achshav al yedei hatzeva nasa Odom, v'nimtze zeu hakava al etzem hadavar, mashe enkin gavar lavan shu atzvi ve'enoi tzeva. The concept is like this, that white is pure. Pure means that there's nothing else mixed into it. And the concept is that when you have other colors, so it doesn't have anything, it's not its own atzmius, it's a mix of other things. It's not pashut. There's a certain pshitos of white, and it's very interesting because the Maral talks about lechem oini on Pesach. This in Gvuris in Perek Aleph. The Maral has a lashon where he talks about, he compares the concept of the matzah of lechem oini being something that's mufshat to something that's very pashut, is something that's shaykh to geula, and he brings a mashal from the Kohen Gadol. I'm just going to read a couple of lines here in the Maral. So it says, what's the concept that the matzah of lechem oini should be a concept of geula? Because a poor person doesn't have anything. This is the spitz simplicity, the spitz plain thing that has nothing attached to it. Something is standing all by itself. And And this is something that we could understand that works in this world in Elam Haza, because Elam Haza is Elam Harkava. It's a world of where everything's mixed together. In a certain Eifin, it could be what he means is that there's Dalit Yisaitis, there's Eish and Mayim, Ofor and Avir, and everything in this world is comprised of some Eifin of these four things. It's interesting because Be'etzah Matzah has three of them. And the verse of Yisrael Zonenfeld that the matzah has three of them, but the matzah is only missing the avir, which is the koach hadibur of that we speak of the lechem eini she'eino lov dvarim habe. And it's not time for this now because it's we're not talking about the matzah on Pesach, but this is the concept that it's very pashut. That's what he's saying. Mikomakom hapshitus mailahu mitzad elam hapashut ein be'arkava mitzad atzmai. Mikomakom the pshitus is a tremendous maila, but not in this world. In Elam Hazeh, the Metzias of Elam Hazeh is that it's morkav, that everything's all mixed together. Masha Enkain, in the Elam HaElyon, everything's much more pashat. So, Ubalayla Hazeh, on the night of Pesach, they needed the Geula of Lehoisa Geula Mitzad Elam Hazeh. The Geula couldn't have been from the regular Seder Ateva, Shu Elam HaMorkav, Rak Mitzad Elam HaElyon HaPashat. Basically, the higher you go, the more pashat it gets, and the less harkavi you're going to find. So, when the Klal Yisrael was experiencing the Gula on the Leil Seder, it was called Kula Shalei Pidarach Hatava. It was completely unnatural, and it was completely from Aniv Malach, Aniv Shlech, Anihu Acher. It was completely like that Kodesh Baruch Hu. So there's nothing else besides Kodesh Baruch Hu. So Memela, there's nothing. There can't be any sort of harkava here. Bechlal, there has to be not no harkava here. Bechlal, a lot less harkava, a lot less of mixtures and things. You know, in a certain eifin, the fact that it's simpler and the fact that it has less ingredients makes it a lot less complex and a lot less complicated to deal with. If you have something pashut, pashut means simple. Pashut means very straightforward. Pashut means it's standing in your face. It's clear. It's understandable. It's comprehensible. It's something that we could work with very easily. Masha Enkein, when you mix a whole bunch of things together, you don't necessarily, besides the fact that there's a taruvis here, but, we took everything and it's not so peaceful anymore, so to speak. It's all mixed up. So in Ruchnius, the higher we go in Ruchnius, the more pashat it becomes. Pashat doesn't necessarily mean simple, like a simpleton, but it means pashat that there's a lot less other garbage mixed into it. So, ulefikach tziva lechem matzah lechem eini shelechem hapashat, sharei ein by davar rak etzem pashat. There's only pashat over here. There's nothing else over here. Kilosh and matzah bal davar show pashat, meaning that that the concept of matzah is because it's only flour and water. There's nothing else in here. It's not complicated. There's nothing complex over here. Just flour and water, and that's it. That's the whole story. And being on this night of Pesach, they had the Geula on the highest madrega, which was much higher than the Olam HaMorkav. So that's why we eat matzah, which is pashat. Okay, that's what he's talking about matzah. Dimyan zeh kain gadol meshamish b'chali me'ashana b'bigdei zahav. Compared to this is the concept that the Kohen Gadol does the avodah every day of the year wearing bigdei zahav, the gold. When he goes Lefnei is not a place in this world. It's heaven. It's a chelik of Shemayim in this world. So when he's going to a Madrega Elyoina, he has to be Pashut. He can't be with bigdei zahav because that's Morkav. That's the complexities of the Olam HaMorkav, the Olam HaTachton, so to speak. Once we're more shaykh to Olam HaElyon, then the more we're shaykh to Olam HaElyon, the higher up we go, the more shaykhs we have to the Pashut, and the less shaykhs we have to the Morkav. Meaning the Morkav, all the stuff, fades, all the stuff ultimately fades away. And this is because he acquired a very high madrega. He was going into the holiest place, the highest place in the world. So he has to remove himself from the bind, so to speak, of this world. Because this world is made up of gashmias, afris, chamrias, gas, which weighs a person down, which makes things very not pashat. Therefore, the whole entire year he does the avodah wearing bigdei zahav b'chutz. When he goes l'fnai v'lefnim, he has to wear only bigdei lavan l'fi mailas hamadrega shenichnas l'sham, because of the great madrega that he's going into. Ki bigdei lavan him pshutim, because bigdei lavan is very pashut. There's nothing complex about it. It's very simple. It's very uncomplicated. Fine, and then he goes on. That's the madrega yesh ba pshuta. Any madrega alyona has a certain pashtus to it. Now, to take this to the next step, the concept is as follows. The Ramchal writes in Derech Hashem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Malka Shel Olam, Mitziyusa Yisbarach Shemai Mitzias Pashut, B'li Harkava V'riboy Klal. The Mitzias of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Pashut, and there's no complexities, and there's no riboy. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Echad. V'chol HaShlemius Kulam Nimtzam By B'derech Pashut. All the Shlemius are included, any kind of Shlemius is all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu encompasses every kind of Shlemius possible, B'derech Pashut. And then he continues and he says, Amitas B'tziyusai, the truth of the existence of Hashem, who inyan echad, is this one concept, shekoilel ba'amitasai v'gidrei, kol masha hu shleimus, that he's koilel in his being anything that's shleimus, v'nimta sheyesh b'kol ha'shlemius, lo yikadav arneisal v'amahusai, not something that's an additive to his mitzias, amitas inyane, el mitzad amitas inyane ba'atzma, shekoilel kol ha'shlemius. So there's absolutely no harkava when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is the tachlis hapshitus? There is nothing added to the etzem zach. So it's very interesting because we live in a world that's so morkov, and a person is morkov with a guf and a neshama. Halavai would be that pashut, right? But there's a person and he has all kinds of kaiches that revolve around the person. You know, Shteit Chazal, that a person alim kata. And anything that exists in this world exists within the Adam. So that means that every kaich that exists in the world exists within the Adam. So who knows how many millions of kaiches that are flying around within the person himself. So that's the opposite of the pshitas. Now, sort of our goal is, when we're focusing on the neshama, we have to take the guf to elevate it, to make the guf into one with the neshama, and that's going to be the pshitas which we could. What can we achieve in this world? Could we achieve in this world to have only a neshama? No, because we need to have a guf. If we have a guf detached from if we have a neshama detached from our guf, it's not going to get us anywhere. Hashem. That's la'acham rev esrim. That's not something that we're supposed to be doing within our life. But the concept is that we have to take the pshitas which we're able to be masig, meaning from our neshama and our ruchnius, and elevate the guf to attach it to that level of the pshitas. And l'chayra, that's the concept of Yom Kippur, of the Chamisha Inuyim, right? So the Maral talks in the Shabbos Shuvah Drasha, he talks about what the concept is of the 5 Inuyim, connecting the 5 parts of the neshama, and how each one corresponds and correlates to another one. But the concept is that these Chamisha Inuyim that we're doing on Yom Kippur is to try to, for at least a period of 24 plus hours during the year, that we should be on this level of being muvdal from anything that's murkov. Hagam, our guf and our neshama is still in one, but there's but that's what we're driving towards. That's what we're trying to figure out, and this is very interesting because there's a lashon of Pirkei Rebbe Lezer in Perek Mem Vav that talks about, when Moshe Rabbeinu came, Moshe Rabbeinu's schedule, basically, when he went up to Har Sinai from the first time. There's a big arichas over here. But then he says like this. Ben Beseira Omer Arboim Yom Asa Moshe Bahar. Ben Beseira says that Moshe was on the mountain for 40 days. Darish b'divrei Torah v'chayka b'Osiyos. He was darshing the Torah and trying to understand the Osiyos. And ula'achar arbaim yom lokach es Torah, and after 40 days he took the Torah v'yard ba'asal lachesh hashviv yom kippurim, and came down on the 7th day, which was Yom Kippur, on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is Yom Kippur. And chilul Yisrael l'chak olam, and he gave it to Klal Yisrael l'chak olam, shenamar v'haisa zois lechem l'chukas olam. And this is for Klal Yisrael, for you, L'chuk Aselum, for Nitzchias. Reb Zechariah says, Koru Torah, they read in the Torah, Umotu Kosov Ba, and they found that it's written in it, V'nisam Nafshei Sechem, and literally, we generally touch it to mean we fast. V'nisa means to, Inui means to pain yourself. U'bay bayom haviru shayfer b'chol ha'machana, and that day they blew a shayfer throughout the entire machana, sheyatzumu kol ha'amah ish v'ad isha megadol v'ad katan, that every single person, men and women, from young and old, every single person should fast. If not for Yom Kippur, the world would cease to exist. Yom Kippur is mechaper for the various from this world and from the next world, because that like Gemara says in Ksubis on Daf Kuf Gimel that Mesa Mutz Yom Kippur is a siman yafaloi shenaskaperu avineisu Yom Kippurim. Shenema Shabbos Shabbosin hu lachem. Shabbos is Olam Hazeh, Shabbosin is Olam Haba, which is the Yom Shekulei Shabbos. Va'afilu kol ha'moyadim ovrim Yom Kippur meni over. Even if all the moyadim are going to become batal, then Yom Kippur is not going to be over. It's not going to go away. It's very interesting, because we know that everybody knows that by Purim it says that Purim ene batal olam, right? Because the pasuk says v'mea Purim elu lo, right? But really, the fact that Purim and Yom Kippur are two sides of the same coin, so then it makes sense Yom Kippur is not going anywhere either. Yom Kippur mechaper ala kalas v'ala chamuris. Yom Kippur is mechaper on kalas and chamuris. Shenemar ki b'yom hazeh yechaper lecha b'kol chatzei seichem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive us, will give us a kapara from all our sins. Mechatzei seichem enksiv. It doesn't say from our sins, ela mikol chatzei seichem, from all our sins. Fine. That's just the gadlus of Yom Kippur. Yom Shenit in the Torah, Omar, Satan Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the day the Torah was given, the Satan said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom, Al kol ha'risham nasat li rishus, Val tzadikim ein ata nasin li rishus. You let me shepherd the Risham, but the tzadikim you don't let me touch. Omar Loi, Hari yesh lecha rishus aleim Yom Kippurim, Im yesh lehem chet, V'm lav ein lecha aleim rishus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells the Satan, you have rishus on them on the tzadikim, on Yom Kippur, if they have a chet. But if not, you don't have permission to touch them. That's why we give the sheichat of the Azazel for the Satan and Yom Kippur Shlelavadal Carbon Shal Yisrael. Shenemar Gar Lechel Hashem, Gar Lechel Azazel. That's referring to this that we're a sheichat that we're giving to Yom Kippur. Garel Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Carbon Oila, Garel Shal Azazel Sar Chatas, V'chalav Nisim Shal Yisrael Hayolav, and all the various of Klal Yisrael were on it. Shenemar V'Nasa Hasar Olav Es Kol Avinaysav. And the Yisrael would carry on it all the avoidness of Klal Yisrael. Ros Hamoel, the Satan saw Shlenimsa B'M Chet B'Yom Kippurim. He saw that there was no sins on Yom Kippur. He says, he says, you have one nation on the land in this world, that's like the angels in heaven. Just like the Malach Yeshars don't have feet, they only have one leg, like the pasuk says in Yecheskel. So too, Klal Yisrael stands on their feet all Yom Kippur, and it's brought down halacha. Just like the Malachim don't eat or drink anything, so too, Klal Yisrael has no achilu shti in Yom Kippur. Just like Malach Yeshars obviously can't do any averes. So too, Klal Yisrael is completely clean from any sins on Yom Kippur. Just like the Malach Yesharis, there's no kinna, there's no sinna between them, there's no hatred and no arguments, and everybody's at peace and gets along. So too, on Yom Kippur, all the Jews get along together. What's prat that all the Jews get along together? Before Yom Kippur, we're supposed to, because Yom Kippur is mechaper for the averis of Ben Adam Lamokim. And over here, this is to be able to be mechaper for the averis of Ben Adam Lachaveri. So therefore we ask mechila from each other before Yom Kippur, today that we should have a kapara from all our averis, Ben Adam Lamokim, Ben Adam Lachaveri. Kadosh Baruch Hu Shemea Asiroson Shal Yisrael Min HaKateger Shalahem. And like Kadosh Baruch Hu hears the tefillas of Klal Yisrael from their kateger, from what the Satan wants. Mechaper Al HaMizbeach V'Al HaKehanim V'Al Kol Am HaKol Megadol Vad Katon Shenemar V'Chiper Es Mikdash HaKodesh. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a kapar to Klal Yisrael from Megadol Vad Katon, but like the pasuk says, V'Chiper Es Mikdash HaKodesh. he goes on over here a lot more interesting things about Yom Kippur, but the point is that the concept that Klal Yisrael is, the Satan says that Klal Yisrael is compared to Malachi Ashares is interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, in one place it says that they wear Levanim like Malachi Ashares also, but it doesn't say that here. But the point is that Leinim Sebem Chet is that concept of the Levanim is the Levanim of the Malachi Ashares. And it's the Tachlis Hapshitas, because they're in the Olam Elyon that doesn't have any of these type of complexities. We know is very interesting. The Beis HaMikdash is called Levonon, Shamal ben Avei Niseim Shel Yisrael. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed by Avoyin Sinas Chinam. And in the later Tkufis in the Beis HaMikdash, the Lashon Shel Zahiris, it didn't turn white, the way that they wanted it to be. But the Chassam Sofer says like this: when Yechezkel discusses the Psukim, B'Binyan HaMikvah, in the Beis HaMikdash of La'asir, it says, "Vayetzu mayim mitachas miftan habayis, u'mizgabrim v'holchem." There's going to be a small stream of water that's going to run out from under the door, and it's going to get stronger and stronger as the stream goes. So Chassam Sofer in the Drashas of Yom Kippur, he says like this: Yesh lemesh ezel meramis kehet tigrid demaya lebidke demaya. It came in the ravach. It gets wider and wider and wider. V'hainu avoyin sinas chinam sheichriva beis Hashem hischilum mibachutz. The avera of sinas chinam, which destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, started from a very external, far-away concept. V'yarovach v'rovach ad shenichnas lefnim lisrei beis Hashem, till it got closer, till it got more widespread and more accepted, till it was done by the chshuvim and the greater people, until it came into lefnai v'lefnim, and until it came lefnim, and until it destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. V'zehu goram be'etzem lifred oisius HaTorah b'avei niseinu rabim, and this is what caused the period in the oisius HaTorah from our averis. Ki Yisrael v'oisius HaTorah hem adukim zebezeh b'skabtzum yiskabtzu v'yipardim yifredum. The concept is that when Klal Yisrael is together, the Torah is together. When there's a period in Klal Yisrael, there's ultimately a period in the Torah. Like the Gemara says in Shabbos and Yom Shachar Beis HaMikdash, we don't find the Mishnah Berurah and Halacha Berurah b'Makom Echad, because there's a period in the Torah, there's a period in Klal Yisrael. L'chein la'ased lavai b'shuvam, la'ased lavai, when Klal Yisrael is going to do tshuva, v'yehavchu zedainet l'schuyais, and these dainas, the averisa that Klal Yisrael did b'mezed is going to turn into schuyas, yasu mimei hamachloika mei haTorah. So this water that was that caused the pirud, so to speak, that he's being medama to the pirud, it's going to turn into the Mei HaTorah, meaning that the sinas chinam is going to, meaning the truva is that you're rectifying that sin which you did. So you did sinas chinam, so you have to fix the sinas chinam, and you have to replace it with being able to get along. And I'm not using the term avas chinam for a reason, but because we don't find that lashon in Chazal. That's the mitzvah of Talmidei Chachamim. Because Hayt Surva Merabon the Damil Partuda the Tusad Dikla. It came in the Novat. He's constantly growing and growing and growing. It doesn't stop. And he broadens his mind in Torah also, and he doesn't stop. Mamish K'mei Bidka D'Maya Hanal. Just like this stream of water that's going to start off very narrow and small, came in the Ravach, it's going to get wider and wider. L'chein yasu mimeh hasdainis hanal shechrivu beis Hashem v'nichnasu michutz lepnim yasu min zchuyos. So these mei hazadain that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash through the sinas chinam and went from internally into the Beis HaMikdash, yasu min zchuyos v'yumayim kedoshim mei haTorah, and will turn into kedusha and mei haTorah v'yavayim mipnim lachutz, and will go from inside the Beis HaMikdash outward mimakam aronu badav lahashpia shefa rav shefa Torah l'chol Yisrael u'b'chibra oisius haTorah yischabru kol Yisrael v'yiyu ish echad. And the concept is that instead of it going, meaning, you watch a video and then you play the reverse, right? I think there was whatever. I'm not going to say now, but the point is that there's that when we're doing tshuva, when we're being mesag and things, we're doing the reverse of the avera that happened. So the same way that the Sinas Chinam started, like the Gemara Gittin says, was Kamsa Bar Kamsa, whatever that story was. In a certain sense, it was a klein shekemaisa. It wasn't such a big deal. But the fact that it spread and it spread and it spread and it spread until the point where it was able to destroy the Beis Hamikdash, so too the mayim that's going to be yotzei mitachas mishtan habayis is going to go from the spitz pnimius digger place in a very, very small oifen, and then be mashpia mitachas ha'ornu bad mimakam ha'ornu badav lahashpia shefarav shefer Torah l'chol Yisrael, and this is what's going to be machaber the Oisiyas Torah back to the Yidden themselves, and that's the that's going to be the ultimate tikkun of what's happening in the world. So that's the metzius of similar to the concept that we're bringing from the Pirkei Eliezer, that's what the point is, meaning that we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back to putting all the pieces together. Now, once we have all the pieces together, now we can make it into a pshitus. Meaning, we had through the averis, it makes things more morkav. In order to unmorkavize them, we have to make them into more pashut. So, if everybody, you have a whole marshal, you have 1,000 people going on a boat somewhere, right? Each person, they're all going to the same place, but each person, while they're on the boat, they're doing something else, right? But ultimately, everybody's getting to the same place, right? But you could also have it that you have 1,000 people going on a boat that's going to the same destination, but all the people on the boat are doing the exact same thing. They're all doing something together. That's the difference between the Galus and the Geula. Because the Geula, everybody's focused on the same thing at the same time and doing everything together. That's Pshitus. Because there's no discombobulation of everybody going on their own, doing their own thing. That's the difference between being something murkum and something pashut. So now it makes a lot of sense that the Malachi Asharis are wearing levonim, because the Malachi Asharis is going to be pashut b'lei hakava. So that makes sense that this should be the color that the Malachim are wearing. So now we have to get into a little bit more about the concept of Gedola Tshuva Shezdainis Nasis like Kischuyos. And why should the Averis... once we explained the concept of why we wear a big day love on, so that makes a lot of sense. So then we have to understand that why is it, like we asked the original question, that, why is it that it's mahapach from red into white? Why can we get rid of it? Why are we holding on to it, right? But like the Gemara says, like we just explained, and Vedach Sam Sefer said it also, that from the Etzem Chet, it's going to turn into Schuyos, it's going to turn into Kedusha. So we don't want to get rid of it because we want to hold on to the Kedusha Be'etzem. That's the answer. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara Sukkah, Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis says, the Yitzhahara betchila dem lechut shel buchya, u'lebesayif daime ka'avaisis ha'agala. When the Yitzhahara first starts up with a person, it's like a very thin thread. It doesn't look so scary. It looks like you just cut right through it. But then as time goes by, as he gets orangutan and orangamished in the chet, it gets thicker and thicker, and it's daime ka'avaisis ha'agala. It looks like the thick ropes that hold the wagon to the animals. Meaning that a person gets tied up in the chet, like with these hard ropes. It's very hard to break free from it. As Lashon is kekelev shaval keiksil shanim bivalta. It's much harder to get out of. The more times you do the chet, much harder. The more difficult it is to get out of it. And every time a person does the avera again, he's mechazik his connection to the chet, and every time he does a chet, it adds more to the thickness of these ropes, so to speak, that's schlepping him further and further into the chet, and that's a pshat in avera gereres avera. So in a Raja is chayzer b'tshuva, or a person who is chayte is chayzer b'tshuva, and he's mekabel on himself all the kabbalas, kabbalasid and charota and vidui and all the things that he's not going to do the avera anymore, right? So now the next time he has an isayon. So let's first focus on this guy on this person who's totally orangutan in the avera. he has a very difficult time disconnecting from it. Mela, a person who never had such an Avera before, so he's not tempted to do it because he's not connected to it. But a person who, Kevin Shoshana Nasa like a heter, right? Once a person does Avera once, it becomes motor to him, and he doesn't feel like there's any reason why he shouldn't do it anymore. And then the third time he already has excuses that it should be like a mitzvah, right? So the point is that once it becomes a mitzvah, and then the next step is it probably becomes his atmius, so it's very, very difficult for him to disconnect from that. And what we're asking, the concept of Yom Kippur is that this person has a koyach to be able to disconnect. Even though he saw rangativt in the chet, he's still able to disconnect himself from it. And this mitzvah of chet that he created, with all these thick ropes and this thick muck that he got himself into, which before he did tshuva, he was totally disconnected from kedusha, and it was a stira to the malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was a chil Hashem b'etzem, because every chet has in it a certain every chet is a rebellion against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now he did tshuva, so the tshuva changes over the metzias. It doesn't change over the metzias that it gets rid of the avera, but instead of that black splotch, so to speak, we remove that stain. The Metzias Sedechet turns over to be a vehicle, so to speak, to be Marbe Kveit Shemayim in the world. And it's a very interesting type of Kveit Shemayim, because only a person who is Chayti in this way, meaning he takes the Kaiches of the Avera that he did, and he's taking that and turning that into not just the Kaiches, but the Metzias Sedechet also, he's turning that into Kveit Shemayim. Why? Because he's saying, I'm not going to do it again. And then he's confronted with the same taiva, or he's confronted with the same Yetzer Hara, with the same Avera, and he says, I'm not going to do it. So for somebody who never had this before, so it's not a big deal, right? But if a person who's totally orangutan in it, and he refrains from doing it, so it's a tremendous Kveit Shemayim. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be mostly just between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's not going to be known to other people at all, hopefully, right? Because, Chotz Aflaim on the Mefarish Chete, right? But this is the pshat that tshuva, even though it's not mechaper by chil Hashem, but by learning Torah, he's able to be mechaper, not just because it teaches a person how to be mekadosh shem shemayim and how to bring about kavod shemayim, but he creates a new space in the world to be able to be mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which never existed until today. And this is a certain kavod shemayim, meaning that koyach that the person was misgaber on something that he wasn't able to do until now, that is a tremendous koyach which creates a tremendous kedusha in the world, and that's like a person's being makriv of himself as a carbon to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a tremendous mesirus nefesh, and this kind of kabbalas al shemayim that he has by being misgaber on his difficult nisayon and preventing him and stopping himself from doing avera, kafi his regular, his hergel that was nasa teva, now he's doing it. So that's a pshat. Yeah, this dainis nasas like eschuyas. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Kol nikra b'shmi lechvaydi b'rosiv yitzartav afasisiv." And at the end of Pirkei Avos it says, "Kol man shabar HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'olam lebar lechvaydi." The whole Metzias Habriya exists only to bring a Kveit Shemayim. Now these averas exist in the world. Now, Hagam, that when a person does a chet, he's rebelling against Rebbeinu Shalom in a very straightforward, in a very simple level, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you not to do something, and you do it, so you're not listening to him. Very simple like that, right? It's rebellion against Hashem. But being that the entire existence of the Bria is to bring a Kveit Shemayim, and anything that exists within this Bria is also going to bring a Kveit Shemayim, so he's going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Lamaisa, Hagam, that at this point, he's creating a Chil Hashem. Chil is lashon of Cholal, creating an emptiness, a space in the world, which is now lacking in Kveit Shemayim, right? Chil Hashem doesn't mean wrappers on the floor. Chil Hashem means that you created a space of emptiness that instead of where Kveit Shemayim exists, now there's a lack of Kveit Shemayim over here, right? But now, when a person, instead of giving into his Yetzer Hara, he doesn't give into his Yetzer Hara, and he tells the Yetzer Hara, no, I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm not going to do the Avera. So that's in place of the Chet. in place of this Yetzer Hara, he's now filling up this chalal with Kvayt Shemayim. So now that this chalal is full of Kvayt Shemayim, now we're able to be mahapech from the Zdainis into Schuyas. From Mamela, now we could understand why instead of getting rid of the Aveira and throwing it out to the fishies, you're able to take that and turn that into white. And that's Kashelag Ylbinu. And it brings it back to the concept of the Pshitas as well. Because the whole Metzias of Chet is the Harkava. And the whole Metzias of changing it over into Tshuva, into Tara, and bringing it into Kvayt Shemayim is making the Bria into more of a Pshitas and less of a complex thing. So that's the Pshat in Kashelag Ylbinu. And I just want to convince everyone that they should have a meaningful tainus, and they should be mizbainin in the toiva sharhetzav Hashem Yisbarach and Bruav, that we have the day, the biggest simcha of kaparas havainas, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu should listen to all our tefillas. Sei gesund.